Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, this first story comes from a deleted user who says, my 26 female, boyfriend 28 male, is upset I don't take the lead or actively motivate him to achieve his goals. Hi, I'm at a loss. My boyfriend and I have been together for 2.5 years and we love each other and care about each other. We have our ups and downs, but lately we've been arguing about this. I am working in clinical research at a prestigious hospital. I work over 50 hours a week. 9 to 5, break for 2 to 3 hours, log in around 8 or 9 and continue working until 1 AM, almost every night. I am very stressed out and exhausted. I am responsible for a lot of patient care. Some days I honestly feel like breaking down under my workload. My boyfriend wants to go to medical school. He is currently in a master's program. Over the summer, my boyfriend took the MCAT, which a quick Google says to me it's Medical College Admission Test, and did very well. However, while he was studying, he started expressing that he was upset that I wasn't taking a more active role in his MCAT prep. I asked what he meant. He said, figure out my study schedule with me, push me to study, etc. This really threw me off. We don't live together. This was during the pandemic and I hadn't seen him in several months. Additionally, I've never asked him to do this for me. Not when I was taking difficult coursework, nor when I was interviewing for jobs. We argued a lot about this. I tried to tell him that this was his responsibility, not mine, to make sure he was studying. I ended up feeling bad about just passively asking how his studying was going each time we talked. I stayed up with him to help him for an unrelated reason and ended up helping him study every so often, or checking on him while he was studying during the workday. I am working remotely. Because of this, I tried to be more active for his admission to this master's program. I nagged him for weeks to send me his personal statement after he agreed that I could edit it. We fought a lot about it because I would make time to edit and he wouldn't send it to me, saying he needed more time. I felt like I was trying to take on a more active role. My time was not being valued, especially despite how much I work on a daily basis on my own job. Once he finally finished, I edited it with him for a long time. A few nights before the deadline, I even tried to do a little interview prep before his admission interview. He was admitted this fall. Fast forward 6 or 7 months and this theme popped up in other places. I am out of shape and do want to get healthier, and so does my boyfriend. We both casually talked about doing workouts together, but haven't done so frequently. Lately, my boyfriend has brought up that he's upset that I don't take the lead in pushing him to work out or be healthy or bring up this topic when we talk to each other. I myself have been trying to be healthy and take it slow with working out so that I build better habits. I haven't been great at it, but I feel stressed out and demotivated with him pressuring me to go at his pace. I'm confused because while I care about my boyfriend's health, I don't understand why it's my responsibility to make sure he stays healthy. Just like it's not his responsibility to make sure I'm working out and eating well. Today I asked how his classes are going and he vaguely mentioned things were okay and said thanks for asking in a kind of snarky way. When I pointed out his tone, he said that he knew I didn't really care about his schoolwork. I was pretty confused. I keep asking him to elaborate and long story short, he said that if I wasn't going to take an active role in motivating him in his academics, I need not ask him about how school is going because it feels very half-assed. I started to get upset because I do care about his academic career since it's a big part of his life at the moment, and he kept saying he was sensitive about it, school, or that I'm half-assing my concern and care. I tend to bring up I feel hurt and need him to be more empathetic or caring and sensitive. And though we sometimes argue, he's made a lot of effort to do better to me. He said that I make him feel like his needs, i.e. motivating him to achieve his goals, are not important, and that our whole relationship is just my needs and not his. I ended up crying after we argued, just out of sheer frustration. I felt like that conversation was a mindfuck. We didn't end the call on good terms or resolving anything. And we're going to start off with Tabby Cat because OP replies to some of these comments. So it says, you can't date a man and raise him at the same time. It's his job to motivate himself to do the things he wants to do, 100% his job. You can be supportive and asking him if things are great, and being open to him if he needs help is nice, but he needs to respect your time and effort too. He seems to be asking you to do a lot, while you aren't asking him to do anything but take care of his own shit. OP responds to that saying, actually, he has been pretty supportive when I needed. When I just started this job, it was very difficult, and I had just moved to a new city and lost all my old friends. Turned out to be a toxic friend group. He did used to come drive to this new city every weekend for the first few weeks and stay until Monday morning because I'd have terrible Sunday scaries. He'd drop me off at work. He's even helped me fill a ton of orders for my side business. I sell chai, which took hours, and he did it without complaining when I asked for his help. This kind of support he's asking me for does feel like different from what I ask of him. His point is that I feel like what I ask is more valid than what he asks, and I'm wrong for telling him what he needs isn't valid. I guess I'm at a loss for that particular point. It does feel like what I asked for, empathy, kindness, patience, emotional support, spending more quality time, feel a lot more reasonable than figuring out a study schedule for him, telling him to work out, or being the one to lead and motivate him to work out while I'm struggling to motivate myself to work out. That's why I don't know if I'm really in the wrong here. Isn't it wrong for me to say, my needs are correct and yours are not? Humming Broad 14 says, your boyfriend is completely in the wrong here, and fuck him for trying to convince you that you are the self-centered one in this relationship. A relationship with ups and downs, you say. One where he's made a lot of effort to be better to you, you say. What on earth does this guy's bad treatment look like then? You are being a big-hearted, hard-working, clever person. You have more than enough to worry about already on the front line of a deadly pandemic. No is a complete sentence, so start saying it. When he snipes at you, like the nasty little man he is, shrug and say, sorry you feel that way, the answer is still no. Or, you already know how I feel about this, let's change the subject. Or, you are absolutely right, I'm far too selfish to manage your life for you. And hopefully, one day soon, you know what, this isn't working for me anymore. I'm done. I'll come by your place this weekend to pick up my stuff. I promise you can do better than a man who fucks with your head, makes you cry and shows no gratitude for the extraordinary effort you put in trying to fulfill his preposterous demands. And a final comment from Santalta, who says, sounds like an unfortunate but very common case of boyfriend wants a replacement mummy. Set your boundaries and stand firm, but consider that he may not change even if you do. You need to think about if this person has enough good qualities to overcome this trait before you're too tied down. He sounds immature and like he doesn't value you or your work. In the future, he's likely to continue to blame you for his failings. He's getting a little too old to get away with this. I'd expect this at 18 to 23, but the man is almost 30. So then OP went on to update the post, which says, so I showed my ex the post in the responses, and we fought for a while, and then he seemed to change. He seemed to put in more effort. He called me a few days after we resolved the original issue and said he wanted to discuss things he was upset about. He started the conversation with, I'm upset that you keep saying that you're upset that I'm not loving enough or affectionate enough. I was immediately upset and spoke up. He started getting enraged that I wasn't letting him express himself. He then started to say that he was upset that I never read certain books he told me to read. His favorite books, which I don't know. Some people think it's ridiculous to be upset about this, but I sort of understand. I definitely felt bad if he didn't look at music I sent him or whatever. During the conversation, however, I asked him if reading the books now would help at all, and he said, no, you should have read those books when I asked you to read them 30 months ago. We don't connect on anything. We have nothing in common. I started getting upset and said it feels like he's just bringing up stuff without any desire for resolution / he just wanted to be mad at me. Also, I read a lot. I just don't like his style of books. He told me to read 1984 and Guns, Germs and Steel. That is not my cup of tea. I even tried to read them. He started getting more and more upset and bringing up other things he was mad about. He was upset I refused to take a vitamin capsule he told me to take, and was upset when I didn't use the fiber powder he bought for me / which I did ask him to purchase for me. But this issue I've already apologized for and was taking the powder after the last fight we've had about this. He said it didn't matter because he had been telling me to take it for months. I brought this up and started arguing back about this because I honestly felt like he was upset I wasn't just blindly following his orders, and he said we need to take a break, and I agreed. He messaged me 30 minutes later and asked me if I wanted to even take a break or if we should just break up. We continued to argue and he finally just said that we are broken up. I don't even know how to describe the emotion running through me at this point. I called him the next day and apologized about the books and for making him feel unimportant in the relationship. He said he appreciated the apology. I asked, "Is this it?" And he started making a lot of sarcastic remarks and making jabs. He made really ridiculous demands, getting an IUD so we didn't need to keep having protected sex, and wanted me to allow him to do other non-sexual things that I've told him I don't like. And when I would protest, he would start saying, "Never mind, we're not getting back together." He eventually told me to message him on Facebook. I was incredibly upset. I ended up blocking him. He called the very next morning and asked, "Do you want to get back together?" I responded, "No, because you don't respect me." He proceeded to call a few more times and text me. I told him I needed space. He said, "Okay, message received, I won't bother you again." He texted me again the next day saying that he was sorry for behaving badly and he was pushing his problems on me. He then texts again because a friend heard we broke up, and he asked if I decided that we would never get back together again. I was so confused I ended up calling him. He didn't seem to understand the seriousness of breaking up with me, and even said he thought about asking to my dad to hang out because he felt we'd be back together soon enough and would laugh about this 3 years later on our honeymoon. What? I told him this was a huge boundary he couldn't cross, and he apologized and said he didn't do it, just thought about it. We talked about our issues and made a lot of mature conversation surprisingly. I thought there may be hope. We continued to talk about our issues, and over the next few days I brought up counseling if we're going to get back together. I felt I cautioned this with, "Let's think about this for the next few weeks and meet up to talk." He agreed. I also told him he would need to come see me because I live in New York City and have no car. He lives in New Jersey. He agreed. He said he wanted to spend the rest of his life with me and wanted to get back together. Last night, he called me and asked if I wanted to spend time with him this weekend. This weekend is obviously Valentine's Day and I was already getting uncomfortable. I said I don't think we should be spending Valentine's Day together. I thought we were just going to meet up to talk about the relationship and getting back together. He started to get annoyed and said it was inconvenient for him to drive to New York City for an hour just to have dinner near my apartment and talk and drive back. I pointed out that he was going to do that anyways for Valentine's Day, and he said that it's worth it if I know I'm spending the weekend with my girlfriend, but it does seem pretty inconvenient for me to drive all the way there just to have a convo with my ex. I started shaking and getting upset and let him know that he was really messed up and selfish. He started getting mad and said it seemed we would be getting back together, and continued to be upset that he was making an effort to do something romantic for me for Valentine's Day and wanted to spend Valentine's Day with me. He said I was asking him to prove his love to me, and he's never asked me to do that. He tried to break up with me a year ago and said I needed to mail him a handwritten letter to prove I gave a shit about him. I wrote an apology letter and mailed it to him. He said he was concerned about what I thought was a healthy turning point in our relationship / that I was demanding a pound of flesh. I don't know what exactly he meant by that. Driving an hour to talk to me doesn't seem like a huge ask if you didn't mean to break up with the person you love and want to be with. I asked to meet the following week like we planned, and he basically made every excuse on how he couldn't come to the city just to talk. He said we should meet halfway and requested I meet him in, here comes the pronunciation guys, Hoboken or Newark, New Jersey. By the way, this is like an entire hour or hour and a half commute for me, and I have to take public transport during the COVID pandemic. My roommate was with me this entire time and flat out said this is bullshit and I am asking you not to see him. I am really reeling from all this because this man has also been incredibly loving to me. I don't understand how he can just switch between being loving to me and then like this. A lot of our fights that I brought up are because he always seems to care so much that people thought he was an amazing partner to me, not focusing on being a kind, empathetic partner to me. It really bothered me. I know this is like a dichotomy, but it felt like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde sometimes. I also still feel guilty because I know I wasn't perfect and I messed up during parts of the relationship too. I don't know if I'm being unreasonable by saying that if he wants to get back together with me, he needs to come and apologize to me in person, / I'm not willing to go out of my way to meet him. Was I dating a covert narcissist? I can't make heads or tails of this behavior. Now, to me, in the start of this update, when he was splitting up with you, then messaging you again, saying, do you want to get back together? It was just too much mind games for me, and I'd be simply outing of that situation very quickly. And I'm not sure if it's the case, but to me, the way it was going, it almost felt like some sort of power trip, like I can leave you and then get back together, all this kind of fluff. And yeah, I got no time for that. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, what you think is going on. And let's move on to another story. And this next story comes from Zaya Psychic Beauty, who says, am I the arsehole for not forgiving my high school bully's apology? I, 26 female, refused to forgive my high school bully's apology after she told me her daughter had been bullied and insisted she not contact me again. I don't feel bad about it. So I'm having some trouble with this. Over this past weekend, I received a Facebook message from my old bully. I was surprised because I thought I'd never have to see or speak to her ever again, and was perfectly comfortable with that. For some basic context, this girl always targeted me when we were in school, mainly because of my mixed heritage. I'm half African American and half Dominican. She'd make racist jokes to her friends, in that way that she was trying to look like she was whispering, but was definitely talking loud enough for me to hear. She also accidentally dumped her drink on me multiple times when straight up refused to use my name, preferring to call me, and I'm not going to say it because it's bloody awful, but you can read it yourself. She took every opportunity to make me miserable for years. I was more than happy to be rid of her when we graduated. Back to the main story. On Saturday, I got a message from her asking to talk. When I saw her name, everything I had pushed down came back up and I didn't know how to feel. I asked my girlfriend and she said to ignore it, but I got curious. I messaged her back a few hours later asking what she wanted to talk about. She said she wanted to apologize for how she treated me in school, and when I asked what brought this on, is where the interesting part started. She told me that she had gotten married and had a daughter now. She just started school this past year and had been bullied by another girl in her class because of her appearance, and it made her think about how she treated me when we were younger. She said the look in her daughter's eyes was the same look I had whenever she had hurt me. I felt bad for her daughter, but I also felt like this was a bit of karma to her, seeing what she put me through in someone she actually cares about. She asked if I would forgive her, and I admit I thought about it for a while, but I ultimately told her no, that I won't forgive her, and that the years of damage she caused me can't suddenly go away with one conversation. I could definitely tell she was upset by this, but she said she understood. I told her I wished her and her daughter the best, but asked her to not contact me again, and I haven't heard from her since. I told my parents and sisters about it, and my parents took my side, but my sisters think I should have kept talking to her and given her a chance. I don't intend to reach out to this woman, and I don't feel bad about my choice to do so, but I also don't know what else she could have said or thought. Maybe I should have asked more questions, but just looking at her face and seeing her name again was really bothering me. I'm glad she finally understood her past was wrong, but I just can't bring myself to want to talk to her. Maybe I'm holding on to something I shouldn't. Am I the arsehole? And most of you have been here long enough to know my past as well, but just in case you're new here, I was bullied in my past, and I'm very stubborn about my past and my bullies as well, and how I would never forgive them for what they did, even if they approached me. Like OP said, the thoughts, the feelings, the trauma that you suffered from this person isn't going to go away anytime soon, if at all. And like OP, if my bully was ever to approach me or message me, yeah, I would say like OP has said, I'm glad you saw the damage it has done. I'm glad that you've seen how much it can hurt people, but I can't forgive you for what you've done in your past. And as always, just to clear it up towards the end, because I get the comments every single time about going to counseling to get through the trauma that I went through, and I'm comfortable not doing so. Yes, I bring up my bullying stories because they relate to other people, and it may come across like I'm holding a grudge against these people and I'm sitting here every day going, bloody bullies, but I'm actually not. You know, it's just when a story comes up that reminds me about it, and I'm very comfortable talking about it and what I went through, to hopefully let people know, let someone know if they're going through similar, you are not alone. And don't do what I did when I was being bullied and sit there in silence. Talk to someone about it. I know it's bloody difficult, almost impossible, because that's the way it felt to me. There was so much stuff going through my head when I was going through my bullying, you know. If I told the teacher, would the bully get me? Would they be waiting for me after school? Because that's what I was threatened with several times. What would people think of me if I grasped? What if I told my brothers about it? I know one of them would have absolutely destroyed that bully and probably ended up in prison because of it, which is another thing that was going through my head. I didn't want that to happen to my brother, so I didn't tell my brother. You know, it's just so much going on in your head when you're going through these things. And as I've got older and I've looked back on my past and I think, fuck, I should have just spoke to someone, you know. But I just look at it now as part of my story, as part of what it is. So do reach out if you need it. But as I said again, I know how difficult it is. And as usual, I've gone off on one again, so apologies for that. But Foxfern says, not the arsehole, you don't owe anyone forgiveness. You can move in and not forgive people. Konek Comet says, I was bullied all throughout high school. I would say the things I had to go through forever changed who I am, and I'll never forgive them for what they did and for all the experiences I missed out on. Poison Note says, people always think that anyone who is an adult who still suffers lasting effects or trauma due to bullying in school needs to get over it, saying it happened in elementary, intermediate, middle, high school, as if that makes it any better. I went through bullying for all 12 years of my schooling, and it made me miserable. I've been graduated for a long while now, but the bullying pushed me harder into graduating 3 years early, and has left me with so many trust issues, anxiety, and social anxiety. I remember talking to my mother about it once and she told me that it's been long enough. We were all kids and kids are cruel and I needed to let go of it. It was so hurtful, honestly. OP, you are not the arsehole. You do not owe anyone forgiveness. Moving forward and letting it go does not mean you need to forgive anyone. Your healing, letting go and moving past is for you and you only. And one more from Archetyping who says that not the arsehole. I was bullied throughout high school and still live in the same town. I've actually bumped into at least 4 of them, and they honestly did not even remember me and insisted that I didn't even go to their school. It's easy for bullies to forget because they honestly don't care. You don't owe her forgiveness. I don't necessarily think she was actually asking for it. If anything, I think it was just an apology and an acknowledgement that how she treated you was awful, and now she fully understood how devastating it was to be on the receiving end of it. You can accept the apology, but you don't owe her forgiveness. If anything, it should make you feel better, knowing that someone who treated you so poorly has finally learned how much it hurt you, as it's now hurting her daughter. That hard lesson she's learned is more than enough in my books, and view it this way. It takes a lot of courage and humility to own up to her own shit behavior. So much time has passed, and for someone to reach out with remorse is a huge deal to me, regardless of how she came to her aha moments. And that was pretty much it. There was lots of not the arsehole comments, sprinkled with a few no one's an arsehole here as well, talking about people can change, etc. And I've got to mention, I do hope the old bully's daughter in this story does get the issue with their bully resolved ASAP, because I wouldn't wish that on anyone. I wouldn't wish that on my bully's children, because it can be for many just a huge life-changing experience that I wouldn't wish on anyone. And I know we have a lot of people in this community who's been through similar experiences in the past, but now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What would you do if you was in an OP situation? Do you think you can forgive and move past it, or not? I personally don't feel there is a wrong answer to that question. Either you can forgive and move on, or you can't, and I don't think either is incorrect at all, because it's your feelings. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for spending your time with me today, getting involved in the stories. Your love, support and time, as always, means the absolute world. So thank you so much, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go, see the sun shining from the windows. Okay, I know that today